In this video we're going to be doing dividing surds. So here we have root 10 divided by root 6, and I always like to write them one above the other. So we got root 10 over root 6, and we know that root 10 is equal to the square root of 2 times the square root of 5, and we know that the square root of 6 is equal to the square root of 2 times the square root of 3. So let's just split those up. Square root of 2 times the square root of 5 over the square root of 2 times by the square root of 3, and we can see that we can cancel out the square roots of 2. So this is equal to the square root of 5 over the square root of 3. Now it says simplify the following, leaving the denominator rational. Well, this is our denominator and it's not rational because it's got a square root. So how do we get rid of that square root? Well, we don't want to change. We can't change a fraction. So whatever we do to the bottom, we must do to the top. If we times the bottom by the square root of 3, square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is just 3, and that's now rational. So we must times the top by the square root of 3. So square root of 5 times the square root of 3 gives us the square root of 15. Square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is just 3. So this gives us our final answer, where the bottom, the denominator here, okay, is rational now because there's no square roots in the answer. So that is our final answer. Okay, let's have a look at the square root of 12 divided by the square root of 3. So we have the square root of 12 divided by the square root of 3. Now, square root of 12 is just equal to square root of 2 times the square root of 2, 2 times 2 times 3 when you do your prime factorization. And we've got square root of 3 on the bottom. So we can see that we're just going to be able to cancel out the 3's, the two square roots of 3. If you can't quite see that, you could see that we've got square root of 2 times square root of 2 times the square root of 3 all over the square root of 3. And then 4, we can just cancel these two things out. And that leaves us just the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 times 2, which is 4, which is therefore square root to just give us 2 as our final answer here. Okay, let's look at our next question. And we've got the 3 times the square root of 2 over the square root of 6. So it's 3 square root of 2. Let's split up the square root of 6. That's the same as the square root of 2 times the square root of 3. And now we can cancel out the square roots of 2. But just like before, over here, we can see that we've got square root of 3 on the bottom. So we need to times both top and bottom by the square root of 3. 3 times root 3 is just square root 3 root 3. We can't simplify that. 3 times root 3 times root 3 is root 3. And then we can, sorry, it's not root 3. Apologies. Root 3 times root 3 is just 3. And we can see we can cancel these two out, and our final answer is the square root of 3. Doing this one, right, we've got 9 over 3 times the square root of 2 over the square root of 8, where the square root of 8 is the same as the square root of 4 times by the square root of 2. Now we can cancel down the square root of 2 just to leave 1 on the top, and we've just got the root 4 on the bottom. We can also cancel down the 9 with 3. 3 into 3 goes once, 3 into 9 goes 3. So we are now left with, in this question, 3 times 1 on the top, 1 times the square root of 4 on the bottom. Sorry, that should be the square root of 4. And that's just 3 over 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2. So that's just 1 times 2. So we've got 3 over 2. And it's perfectly good enough to leave our answer like that. You could write it as 1.5. I prefer top over fractions. Okay, let's just create a bit more space over here. And we've got here 43 times by root 5, so that's 43 times the square root of 5. Can't do much on simplifying of that. 86 is the same as 2 times 43. And square root of 15 is the square root of 3 times by the square root of 5. So we can see we can cancel out the 43s and we can cancel out the square root of 5s. So we have on the bottom on here nothing, just the 1 on the top. If we cancel out, that'll leave us 1. Okay, because you've got 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times root 3 is 2 root 3. Remember, we times top and bottom by the square root of 3 to get rid of that square root of 3. So that'll leave us a square root of 3 on the top. 1 times square root of 3 is square root of 3. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6 for our final answer here. One more of this type. So 27. Now I could reduce this to prime factorisation, but I know 3 times 27 is 81. You could prime factorise the top and prime factorise the bottom and then cancel out all the ones which are common. Now root 12, let's just, well, we can see 12 goes into 24. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, right, 27 goes into 81 3 times. 12 goes into 20, root 12 goes into root 24, root 2 times. So what we're left with in this question, having cancelled out what we can cancel out, is we've got 1 times 1 on the top and we've got 3 times the square root of 2 on the bottom. Just in case you can't see that, let's just do the root 12 over root 2 times root 12. You see, 24 is root 2 times root 12, and you can see how those can cancel. Okay, let's get rid of the clutter. Now we need to get rid of the square root of 2, and so therefore we times the top and the bottom by the square root of 2. So 1 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 2. Root 2 times root 2 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6 for our final answer.